Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer. Right over there is John, your resident millennial. John, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty damn well. Fan fucking tastic even.
Uh oh. Uh
That's
oh.
right. That's right.
You sound like a liberated fella.
I am a liberated fellow.
Do you feel a little more liberated right now?
No.
Does it? Come
I
on.
paid a lot of taxes today. No.
Right. I mean, but but your mobility is increased
Yes.
greatly, right?
That's true.
So
I'm
you're
finally out of the rascal scooter and into a car. That's
right
right.
where mobility relates to liberty that
Right.
you have
Right.
greatly increased. Good to see Quest Fanning over there hanging out,
Quest.
saying
What's
how,
up, bro?
how are you doing this evening, Quest. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Of course, it's always one of those fun things to make sure and do. Coming at you tonight on YouTube, D Live, and Trovo. Sometimes we
YouTubes.
have folks sneaking in over on Trovo. Every once in a while, a little action on D Live. But John, I've
Hang on one sec. Something that we need to be pushing at the beginning of the shows from now on.
no way, something to
What's
push.
our new thing? Yeah, our new thing. What is it, Robert? What's our
Uh,
new thing?
Saint has joined.
Saint.
Says good
Yeah,
evening,
he has.
and we're bitches. So.
Naturally.
New thing. Are you talking like if I got up in the morning and I went to the store and I asked you to buy me a coffee?
Correct.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, but you never do.
No, I don't.
You're
But someone out there might.
You're such a stingy
Someone
person.
out there might buy us a coffee. If you were one of the someone people that might do that.
If you are that someone people,
That someone people that might
wow.
do that. Down in the description, first link there. There it is. You can do that. Buy us a coffee, which is just like a way to donate either a one-time donation or a monthly. We got perks over there, so check those out. See which ones you like because they're kind of cool. I'm very proud of myself for doing them, and I did them without even asking Robert for his consent. So I've signed us up for 3 different tiers of perks. Robert has no idea what they are because
Yeah.
he doesn't visit those sites. So
Um,
it'll be a nice surprise for him. So if you're gonna do it and you wouldn't do it normally, do it just to fuck with Robert. It'll be funny.
it's always fun.
Yeah.
It's always a good thing. Um, yeah,
Hey, Wyatt.
I
It's
like
here
coffee.
too.
I see Wyatt
What's
in the
up,
house.
Wyatt?
Good to see Wyatt from over at the breakdown with Birkenhoff. And there's Ed J. Edgar coming at us. I could be watching the suffragettes right now. You could.
I don't. Hey, Robert. Sidebar. Don't tell J. Edgar. I don't think that's how you spell suffragettes. Pretty sure it's a G.
Suffragettes.
Suffragettes. I don't
He's
think
got
that's how you spell
suffragettes.
that.
So, in
That's how you
case you
spell that.
don't know, that's the name of the American
The surfing team.
the rocket surfing team. They have rocket surfboards. They call themselves the suffragettes.
That's lame AF.
Saint says, "Imagine drinking coffee. This message courtesy of the Black Tea Gang." Right?
Well, actually, if at our buy me a coffee is actually buy me a beer. So yeah, there you go.
Wyatt says, Wyatt is saying that today was last final was today for the semester. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, good for you. Get that shit out of there, man, or get it out of the way is what I mean. But
Yeah.
hot girls, surfer music. Surfer music is lame as fuck, dude. Sorry, but I mean, hot girls. Everyone loves hot girls. Even other girls that love hot girls. Everyone loves hot girls. Surfer music, gay as fuck.
I don't know. Depends on the
Yeah.
music that you're talking about.
Nope.
I'm just saying. You gotta if you haven't looked at a good cross section of it, I don't think you can judge the music.
I think I can. Yeah,
I-
I think I can do what I want. I think it's while it is still somewhat of a free country.
Okay, let
I
me
will do
let me
it.
say, let me say this. I don't think you can accurately judge the
Ah,
music without listening to a decent cross section.
I've listened to the Beach Boys.
I mean, do you think without having, now that you've started seeing a cross section of the Western genre of movies,
Mhm.
would you say that you can't accurately judge it without having done that? The whole genre. You can't just say, "Oh, the Western genre sucks" without watching.
I can't say
one
I can't say
movie,
that
right?
I can't say that it's actually surprised me though. It's pretty much exactly how I envisioned it before having watched it. Like it really has not surprised me. It's I mean they're most of them are pretty much the same movie, right? It's mysterious kind of guy, and he's like super fast with a with the pistol, and people fuck with him, and he gets one over on him, and then some girl's in trouble, and for some reason he has some kind of like I need to save this girl, and then they kiss and stuff, and it's the same movie over and over again, pretty much.
Um,
It's like someone just fills in an ad lib, you know, Mad Lib thing.
yeah. So there was what was the show? Will Smith did the remake, the movie of it, something
Oh,
Wild West. Yeah,
hang on
Wild.
a second. Hang on a second, because I think Quest Fanning has just become our first donator.
He bought a beer. What does that
I
mean?
think
Is
he
that
did.
bad?
He bought us a beer. Thank you, Quest. You are awesome.
I like beer.
Yeah,
Beer is good.
dude. Badass, man. We appreciate
Except
it.
when I'm
Yeah, yeah,
drinking
yeah.
it. I don't like it so much when I'm drinking it.
I'll drink the beer. Don't worry. I mean, let me actually log in real quick.
Oh, there you go. There's an idea.
I'm a
So
follower and a supporter. Nice.
nice.
We feel very special, Quest. Thank you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is
Um,
a special stuff. Um, I have to say, John, going through this whole process, like right now I'm selling a house. We're selling a house. We're buying a house, and we're buying land to put that house on. Right? Uh, man, let me tell you about the bureaucracy involved. Good Lord.
for what
It's
now?
for selling a house, buying a house, and buying land to put that house on.
Oh yeah.
Just the hurdles, the bureaucratic hurdles that are in front of us to jump over and get through, and it's crazy, and you know, and I'm it's I don't know, man. I don't know if I recommend it to anybody, but on the flip side, I'm like, I've reached the point. I think I'm finally reaching that point, John, where I'm snapping. I
Where
think
maybe a
I'm
certain
gonna.
form of fundraising happens to be theft, perhaps.
No.
Or certain organization that tries to run things might not be so great.
Um, I ultimately, I'm just saying, I'm I'm really borderline, um, potentially going to go 100% off the grid.
Ooh, I like it. I
Like
like it.
when we get this all done, I have I'm watching things go on right now, and I'm just like, dude, that can't be, the writing on the wall cannot be any plainer. It really can't. Um,
Yeah.
so, but now this was, one of the things that's been going on is this, there was a talk about preschool and stuff like this, making that free, right? Biden making it free. Well,
Yeah.
he's rolling out part of his American Families Plan. Um, dude, they're going all out. They're gonna. It pretty much takes care of the bulk of child care costs, like subsidizes child care, and basically makes it like ultimately easy to, go to work and be able to afford to put so everybody can work. Everybody can work, right? And we'll make your child care. We've got your kids. We got your kids, and
Yay, that's the
we're
best.
gonna make your first couple of years of school free, so you don't have to worry about that cost either. I mean, like the maximum amount of child care somebody may pay if they reach an income bracket to hit it is like 7% maximum of their total income. Now, you know, that's fine and well and good, but for the bulk of people, they'll be getting child care for free. So, this idea that, you know, staying at home, like this is going to kill that ability to have a family unit, right?
Yeah. It makes it much easier to not have a family unit.
Right?
Makes it much easier to just keep your kids in the system from dawn till dusk. Because
Uh,
there's lots of after school programs as well. Like there's lots of shit they can. Like, so you can have them there from like 7 in the morning until like 7 at night, maybe even later in some cases.
now,
Maybe not in the same spot, but they're at least all in government, buildings. Like
now, now,
it's not good.
it's interesting that the spin that gets put on certain aspects of it. One argument being made is that stay-at-home parents who choose not to have someone else watch their children, they won't benefit from that. They won't benefit from the savings of that. I'm like, okay, okay, I don't want to hear that argument either. I don't want to. Oh well, they're not getting any free money because then now that's just going to make the argument. Okay, now we also need to start throwing the UBI at people, right? And so that even the stay-at-home parents are being compensated for their child care, right? See?
Oh yeah, I can see it. I can see it happen. I think Andrew Yang went too hard too fast. They
Well,
needed to like build up to you doing the dishes at home is somehow work. I mean, it is work, but it's not like income.
well, it correct. Well, now I will say this: I have done it, and
Yeah, no, no.
it is not an easy task. It is a full-time job, far
Mhm.
past a regular 40-hour-a-week job. You are
Right, 'cause,
constantly on watch.
you're bending over and putting DVDs
Right.
into DVD players.
And like if they're sick, they're up through the night, right? You're gonna
Yeah,
pull
that's
doubles
true.
and triple shifts.
Yeah.
You can literally go 2 or 3 days without getting but a couple of hours of sleep, right?
Hmm.
It is work and it's a job. But remember, that wasn't his primary focus with that either. His primary focus with the UBI was primarily built on the idea that automation, getting ahead of the curve
Yeah.
of automation, right? That
Right,
was the
yeah.
idea behind that more so than anything. The other was a very nice balancer to that, because I will agree, stay-at-home parents don't get enough, uh, you know, compensation, as it were. There is no financial gain from that other than, you know, I don't know, your kids being well off. And
Well, I mean, well, that's the thing is like, is you caring for your child worthy of making money? Right? Like, that's not a job, that's an obligation, that's a responsibility.
Correct.
Since you had a child, that is your responsibility to take care of that child.
But
It's like saying you should be paid to to take care of your dog.
but
But it's even worse because you gave birth to this child, whereas you
Sure.
didn't have to get a dog. Right?
but you're in a financially driven society, so therefore
Yeah.
the reasoning becomes that you must make it equitable to a monetary proposition, right? You have to equate it to that to put value on it for those people who don't do it.
Right.
And
Sure.
right, and you can't just say it, right? Because no one ever really gets it that doesn't do it. I have to say it, right? So so these people will make the argument, oh well, yeah, it's got to be compensated as well. We're providing child care for our own kids. Why aren't we compensated? Thus, it will lead to something where people are getting money handed out to them for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, real quick, I want to address something
I was
that
going to get
Quest
to the
Fanning.
chat. I was going to jump
I-
up to the chat. Yeah.
I know, but I wanted to hit it while it was new and fresh and relevant. And then we can start over once.
Right. Go.
yeah. So he says, but most of the recent research indicates that going too early has long-term negative results because they try to get the kids to sit still well before it's developmentally appropriate, and I 100% agree with that. And they do that now, not even just like kindergarten, but like up through like middle school. I mean, kids, especially boys, are not meant to just like sit still, be quiet, and pay attention for hours at a time. That's not what they're not wired for that.
Right.
They need to be up. They need to be moving around. They need to be like actively engaged in something,
Sure.
as opposed to just sitting there watching,
Well,
watching something.
But if you look at education,
Even
and-
through like high school, I would say,
well,
they start to settle down a little bit, but
right. Well,
you still
education
need to be.
education
Yeah.
on a whole has shifted forward, right? Like we shifted to a point where we were teaching. Like I know that in the grades that I went to, I probably didn't learn. I was learning things at a slower pace as far as levels of math, etc.,
Hmm.
than you were 20 years later, right?
I mean, yeah, I'm probably not a
Right.
good example, but yeah,
But
I know what
right.
you
Well,
mean.
I guess what I'm saying is like when I was learning algebra, kids are learning algebra younger now, right?
Yes, that's
In
true.
school, in a younger grade.
Hmm.
So that's all. Even getting kids started going to school, and I agree with what Quest is saying about kids. They're not, but what's happening is the tools by which the children are being educated are evolving now. So instead of being a textbook is dreary and drudgery. But
Oh my
when
God.
now that
Yeah.
now that we're able to provide smart classrooms, digital digital interaction to get to these end goals of education, it is a catalyst by which you can't get kids to sit down for longer periods of time and absorb information. For instance, you talk about boys getting. You want to get boys to sit down for long periods of time? Make
No,
their
I want them to
education
be
in the form of a video game, right?
right, but well, that's just
That's
kind of but it's just, hang on, because that's like a placebo
mhm.
effect of like getting up and doing things. Playing a video game, it's you're transferring
Right,
that getting up and doing things, that engagement to the video game. So your character's running around, not you, but you still your mind is like I'm running around doing. Your mind is engaged in the same way as you are if you're
right,
actually running around playing as a kid, right? Your mind's engaged in the same way. So
right,
it's just a like a fake form,
right.
um yeah, synthetic
But
form of actually being up. They need to actually be up and engaged and running around and
right.
like playing, maybe playing an educational game, sure,
Well,
but like that's something that they'll get into,
but
something that they'll be.
the digital child now
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's a.
it starts learning. It can start learning at a much younger
Right,
age because
but I'm
the
not saying.
interaction with devices is so simplistic for.
Right, but I'm saying that's a bad thing.
Right.
Not
Oh, I'm
really.
not saying
Yeah.
it's a good thing necessarily. However, sad to say, we've reached the breaking point. It is a necessity. We just had this conversation with um, the grandchild's mother, and we
Mm,
said you need to consider the fact that how she's going to be learning in school and moving forward is going to be digital. So her screen time, you need to be using that. You need to use it and give her access to it and incorporate a lot of her learning there in this early stuff because that's the mode of delivery she's going to be facing when she goes into school, even at a very early age, right?
right.
Um, but I agree that there's a lot of expectations for children at younger ages now, even in developmental areas like that, um, where like I look at a child now and I go, well, why isn't this child doing this at this age? Um, and you and it's totally normal that they wouldn't be, right? It's like they wouldn't. This is normal, just normal development. But why aren't they ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah.
Like these expectations have been set in our
Dude.
minds.
Not to like take away from the topic, but there's something crawling around on the front of your pop filter, and it's distracting as
I
hell.
bet it's a fly.
Is that what that is? Something.
Yes, it
Maybe like a
was.
moth. I thought it was like a moth, or like a little one of those little
I
bugs.
believe he might have. I think I felt him. I think I got him. Either that or
I
he
think you did
bounced
too.
off. He bounced off my hand. One of the two.
Yeah, he
We'll
did.
know.
He's fucking gone.
Uh,
Well, we can head to the chat though, like we meant to.
do I? Oh, the
So we can
chat.
head to the chat now since we got distracted.
Uh, I see Seawall showed up tonight, rolling in his half track earlier.
Oh.
What did he say? He said the only people who should have kids are those who can afford to take care of them themselves. Well, yeah, but see, now I will make this argument. I mean,
mean,
it's like we don't necessarily live in a society where everyone has that. I'm not going to say opportunity. What's the word I'm looking for? It has the capability to make that kind of
uh,
income where one parent can stay home.
yeah, no, I mean that's for sure. At least how the modern system is running, that's not really feasible. our birth rate would be minuscule.
And
We think that.
how quickly can that shift where you are in that position, and then your child's 2 years old, and you've got a
But
second
then
one
you're
on the
not.
way,
Yeah.
and then you lose that job, right?
Yeah.
And or
Yeah.
the sector crashes, or any of a number of
Anything can happen.
things
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
happen, and then you're in that position,
Yeah.
right? Where now
Yeah. I don't.
both parents need to go find a job to be able to
Yeah.
support this family.
Yeah. I don't think that's a practical solution.
Um, I mean, if here's the honest thing, people always say,
But,
well, we'll have
hang
kids
on.
when we're what?
I was gonna say I do have a solution though. Like,
Oh,
even if
please.
both parents have to work, I mean that's why we need to come back with like strong family ties. Like we need to, put more emphasis on family, not just the immediate family, but extended family as well.
Mm,
Grandparents, as you uh, as you've experienced, grandparents are a big help.
yes and no. I mean,
I'm not saying they always
but
will be and they always can be, but
but
I'm
look
saying
at it.
that,
We are a working society, working until
Yeah.
what, in our 60s, 70s, right? So even
Yeah.
those people have full time jobs. Grandparents
Sure.
sitting around with full time jobs, etc. And
Yeah, but so
so
it's not even just grandparents, though. I'm saying
Right,
like,
no,
there's
I
usually
get it.
someone around who can, someone who's related.
surprisingly enough, there's not that much opportunity in that, and you'll hear this amongst many people who have their kids in daycare and childcare. If they had a family member that had the time to do it, they would go with that option. But many do not. I mean, you're talking
That's
a
fair.
full.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's gonna
Right.
be. Oh, no, no, but no, I'm saying we also need to put more emphasis on that than we have
Sure.
currently.
I mean,
And
it
also,
would
yeah,
be
of course,
nice.
it's not going to be, and it's not 100%, guaranteed to work 100% of the time, right? That's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
I'm saying we
Honestly,
can make it work more. I
right.
think.
But see, it ultimately all comes back to one argument, right? This is the ultimate argument: is all of the solutions require that somebody have less work to do, so
Right.
that they can take care of the child.
Hmm.
Whether it be the extended family or whether it be the immediate family, somebody needs to have less workload to be able
Yeah.
to do that. And then that says, okay, well then who needs to provide, where do we get that money from? Do we get jobs that pay more money? Do we demand that? Or do we ask the government to start shoveling out money to us? How do we, or do we, how do we demand that companies do it without imposing regulation on it that says they do, right? How do we get
Yeah.
companies paying out enough money that everybody can have a one income household and still have kids?
I'm not sure that you can. Oh, the only thing you can do is, I mean, the only thing you could really do is just make it so that it's infeasible to do business without being able to do that, which would take a lot of people demanding that all at once. And
There's a solution out there, and it's coming, John.
yeah,
There's a solution.
I don't know if it's a good
There's
solution.
a
but there is
solution,
one coming.
John. You've heard about it. Everybody's heard about it. The Great Reset.
Yep.
It's the solution, John.
One might even say it's a final solution.
And you know that it's going to be a good solution when you have CEOs of major corporations, as well as banks, central banks, financial institutions, labor unions, international organizations, and government leaders like John Kerry. You remember him, the climate czar?
Oh yeah, he was the one that lost the election against Bush, right? Baby Bush.
Um, all these folks are signed on, ready to push a reset button.
And
And guess what? The first step of this is being put forward in the EU right now. Okay.
naturally.
Now understand. Remember, we're talking about the European Union,
Yep. I know.
which is a group of countries, all basically beholding to one leadership,
Yep.
as if they were one giant country almost, or one
Empire.
empire.
They even called themselves an empire for good. I forget who
Uh,
it was. It was one politician, to be fair, but I can't remember who it was. Yeah, an empire for good.
who are now going to regulate. Okay. On March 10th, the European Parliament voted in favor of a resolution that demands all large companies in the European Union, as well as some smaller businesses, put ESG standards in place or face harsh penalties from their respective national governments. Now, basically, what ESG standards are it's the ESG model. Companies are not only rated using traditional metrics like revenue, quality of goods, services, but also on a variety of social justice metrics, such as their carbon footprint, air quality of a business's supply chain, and having the right ratio of employees working within the company, plus a bunch of other points on the scale, right? Basically, they have to be woke and on board for governance. This gives them the right of governance over all of this.
Yeah.
Um, and is, do you
I like what Ed said.
there's
The
a
most
certain
recent thing he said. Yeah.
there's a certain European country that knows a thing or two about the finality of solutions.
It's true.
Quest says ESG standards sound gay. I
Does
know it
sound
is.
gay.
Crazy idea. Before we got married, at least one of us had to have an income to sustain both of us. Then after that, we had our daughter. A lot of cart before the horse, folks out there, right? Well, most people go into marriages with two income, expecting to have do two incomes. Bear that in mind. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like got to live, right? Seawall says, "Big reset. If implemented, will fall apart." Sure, it's possible, but here's the thing. Here's the thing I'm trying to figure out. Now, this reset is seeking to be basically a balancer. If you look at what's happening with our administration right now, if you don't think that this is the groundwork for something like this to happen here in this country,
Of course.
right? We're laying it all out, right? But why would all the people with money, like, why are all these capitalists willing to reset capitalism when
Because it's not.
on the
No.
surface it seems like it's going to be a rebalancer of economies as well?
No. It's capitalism, but only for the rich. Socialism for everyone else. So capitalists still get to be capitalists. They still get to do their thing. They're elites, right? They still get to do their thing. Everyone else has to follow the rules. They don't have to do that.
This is the some of the impetus behind things like the New Green Deal or Green New Deal.
Green New Deal.
Which I don't know which way it's supposed to go.
Green New Deal.
But so this is the idea behind the whole reset. The world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies, from education to social contracts and working conditions. Every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed.
Yeah. Dude, it's some scary shit, man. I'm telling you, it is.
But the question, it still begs the question: why would those in? I don't know. Do they?
Well, Seawald makes a good point about it. Not that those capitalists aren't capitalists; they're corporatists. I mean, in the modern vernacular, it's the same thing. I get what you're saying, and you're right. But in the modern, that's anyway. They want to destroy the ladder that got them there, right? And what Quest is saying that they're going to be strengthening their position, which is pretty much what I said. And he acknowledges that I'm right. I always like to acknowledge when people acknowledge that I'm right because I'm right. And I like to hear it. But yeah, they're basically trying to make sure like we have the wealth and no one else can have it, and we'll kind of like give you some crumbs. It's basically it's going to turn into what communists think it is now,
Okay, so
but it's just gonna get way worse.
so then I ask you this, John.
hmm
Does this not seem like a stronger step towards the corporatocracy taking over?
Largely, I mean, yeah. So, corporations, especially the major corporations and banks and the government, are all in bed together. Like that's the thing is they're all in bed together. So you can't unless you can separate them, this is what's gonna happen. I
Um,
mean, so yeah, corporations are able to take over not because they actually have the power, but because they have the power over the government, which has the power over you. So indirectly, yeah, the corporations are controlling you, but
this
not
kind
directly.
this kind of thing, uh, I picture this putting big corporations, big banks in the position to take on the policing of capitalism themselves, to where would they go a step beyond setting the standard, and they go into, you know, regulating the standard, and the government hands off that responsibility to them, to where they say, okay, this company doesn't
Well,
meet these standards, so,
see, the thing is,
and they
I
get,
mean,
I don't know. See,
well, no,
the
so
monopolies would take over.
it's always going to come from government. 'Cause government does not want to look like they're not in control. So they had this kind of deal where a corporation would be like, "Hey, buddy, do this for me," so that it's not the corporations doing it; it's the government that's doing it on behalf of the corporations. The government's not going to allow itself to look like it's not in charge. That's never going to happen.
Well, and Seawall agrees with you there, and I wholeheartedly understand that. But in
hmm
in the mind's eye of the perfect corporatocracy, the government is remains intact, and the government remains as a figurehead, with the illusion that the corporations are beholding, but the corporations are setting the standards, and they're setting the standards openly, right? It's no longer from a lobbying perspective. It's like now that they are able to, in this world that the Great Reset puts forward, if they're able to set a standard by which other corporations should follow behind, then they can openly say, okay, government, you need to regulate these other corporations in this way, or, sanctions on these companies from a governmental standard, and the government will follow. Yeah, the government will still be there. They'll just be a figurehead for the people. I mean, and
Basically,
they'll still have some functions that allow them, but the corporations will openly be calling the shots when you're talking about something
yeah,
that is directly impacting them, like this would. They can
sure,
more openly
yeah,
step
yeah, yeah.
in and self-regulate
They already kind of do.
in the capitalism,
In a lot of ways, they do.
right?
Yeah,
And take the burden off the government. And then they can also take other burdens off the government too, as I've talked about before, with education, with military, things like this. They can take the
yeah,
burden off, because remember, as long as the government is giving out free money, giving those people those crumbs, just enough crumbs to keep them happy and keep the
yeah.
majority of them contained. You can have your outliers as long as they can keep that to a small percentage, right? Less
hmm
than the 11%. What is it we need to keep it under? And as long as they can do that with the gimmies, and they do it from the government, right?
yeah.
Then the corporations can do what they want. The money, and I say corporations, the money. It's hard to say
Banks
banks without
mostly.
calling them corporations as well,
Well,
because
yeah, of course, yeah,
they're
yeah,
just,
yeah. They're, yeah.
But that's really, ultimately where I see it. I mean, we've been watching for years as look at look at the umbrella companies that are out there and everything that falls underneath them, right? Look at Pepsi. PepsiCo is just part of a bigger picture. And PepsiCo has so many things under its brand,
Oh yeah.
but it's just one branch of the family tree that is. I forget the name of the company that is.
Was
This
it
is
earlier? This is kind of an aside. On Twitter, it was Doritos and Cheetos were like bickering at each other and stuff for like the little for some like clout. They were just going back and forth at each other, but they're owned by the same company. You know what I mean? I think it's Frito Lay. They're owned by the same company, which I believe is owned by Pepsi. If I'm not mistaken, Frito Lay.
right.
It might be. I don't know exactly, but yeah, it's like, dude, like they're just manufacturing shit. At least when Wendy's did it, they did it to their real competition. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, I see. Well, that when you talk about the companies don't want that much exposure from risk by taking on these things, but they're they they really don't have to give a shit anymore. I'm sorry, but it's
No.
reached the point in capitalism where the big corporations really don't
But see,
boycott Walmart all you want, but guess what's not going to happen?
the thing is, I think
Walmart's not going to stop making billions.
I think Seawall's right though. It's not capitalism. It really is corporatism. I mean, it really is. It's a completely different economic system than capitalism is.
Sure, and if you say that it's corporatism, then then understand why don't think it's such a far reach to go from corporatism to corporatocracy.
Corporatocracy. Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's not a far
mean,
reach, and
yeah.
the government doesn't have to cede all power. Again, and corporations just. You know, if people believe everything that they see in
Oh God, yeah.
in the media
They do.
about what corporations are doing positively, for the last 2 years, Walmart's been about raising employee rates, this, that, and the other thing. But I can promise you, they've been cutting as many hours as they've been giving raises.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. That's what they always do.
Because their biggest focus on their bottom line is driving
Yeah.
labor costs down,
Of course. Yeah.
and they are finding ways to the extent that they're it's not unusual for them to work short staffed and expect 50% of the manpower and expect 100% plus of the work to get done.
yeah. Yep.
Come on,
Yeah.
and their option is going to be they're going to automate. They're going to take that money they're saving on labor while as they transition into more automated ways of shopping that relieve the burden of having people in the stores, employees in the stores. It's crazy, but this is the answer that that corporations make to this regulation. That's the thing. It's like why would the money be so behind it, knowing that it's going to hurt people if when it's all said and done, they don't give a fuck. They have enough power that they don't have to worry about so much of the social repercussions. Do you really think McDonald's is worried about people boycotting the McDonald's brand? You know how many
No.
times people have called for boycotting McDonald's
Yeah.
throughout the years that I've been experienced with McDonald's?
Oh yeah. No, I know. That's never gonna happen. They're too big.
Right.
You can't cancel them when they're too big. That's,
I mean-
that's the problem with any of the cancel culture. They always try to go after too big of targets.
You know how many times
Like Joe Rogan. You can't cancel. He's too big.
probably how many times I've heard that Bank of America was going to go under from some stupid bullshit that they were doing, or big class action. Bank of America rolling on strong. They don't these corporations don't have to give a shit about social outcry, because what will they do? They throw out a little social outcry band-aid and an apology, and they do something. If somebody loses a job or whatever little something that happens, they throw a little band-aid out because it's an outrage culture that's going to move on in 30 seconds to something else to be outraged by with another company or another person, a celebrity, whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. They don't have to worry about the impacts of making bold moves now. That time is gone.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about a government, world governments are willing to regulate the just the basic interactions between people. I mean, that's what it's coming down to. How we talk to each other is now going to be regulated if this moves into this country, right? If we fall into
Yeah.
this great reset and we are on board with that, how we deal with each other, all of it. So
I mean, it already has. There's been a huge switch in like how we communicate, and I mean, there has been for a long time, right? You know, certain words that you can and can't use that are socially unacceptable to use. But with social media, it's becoming more like you don't use those words not because they're socially unacceptable, because they'll get you banned off whatever platform you're on, and you don't want to be banned off those platforms. You still want to speak, so you adjust your language to not include those words. It has the same effect though.
right,
You know, you're still censoring yourself. You're still not saying the things that you would say otherwise. So how we speak has already been, challenged in a huge way. How we
right,
even communicate to each other.
right.
I play Twitter all the time now. It's pretty fun, but I noticed, and I don't do this. I used to do this when I was younger. I don't do it anymore. Where like you start off just being a complete dickhead to the other person. But I noticed that a lot of people do start that way. Like, I'll just comment on something that they said. I'll be like, "Oh no, here's how I think you're wrong," and it's instantly like, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot. Here's how the," and I'm like, "Dude, I haven't said anything to you yet. Like, I just told you I think you're wrong." You know what I mean? People are instantly they're like on that hair trigger of like just ready to
Oh
fight,
yeah.
ready to
Well, everybody
to like claw at another person, and it's like, dude, like I haven't done
right.
anything to you yet. Like,
Well, I mean, it's well,
yeah,
there's so many things that impact that though. Like that's part of this becoming this digital society that we've become. Like you get a text from somebody and
yeah.
you don't know how to take it. Right? If like there's no emoji on
Oh
there,
yeah,
if there's nothing like if you don't know the person really well or whatever, it's like so now it's
yeah,
like do I have to read into everything that's said to me physically face to face too, or how do I approach?
yeah.
I we're in this whole interaction flux these days that has everything confused, but that part of it where we have to be on guard constantly of everything we say now, right? Like
Hmm.
we used to mock and laugh at the PC culture back in the 80s, 90s, right? Oh, they're so
Oh yeah.
PC, politically correct, and oh, it's all PC, funny, ha ha, whatever, doofuses. Now, oh my
Now
God,
it's the law of the land, man.
right now,
Like now, and
and it's
the
not a
funny thing is, it's the same people who would have been laughing at it 20 years ago. It's the same exact kind of people, right?
and you
People
don't
who
know that
like,
somebody's going to say something to you at the time, or if it's just going to show up online somewhere, and suddenly it's
hmm
going viral because you said something that you felt like you were just free to say. See what says
wait,
Pete?
what?
Tell him about the girl from
Oh,
last
go
night
ahead.
who loved to fillet authoritarians.
Oh yeah, I was arguing with some. I guess it was a female. I don't know. I couldn't tell from the profile picture or anything, but um, that's what I like about the de-individuation of the internet. Uh, like it's you don't know who the other person is. I'm taking you on your own merit, not looking at you at all. But anyway, yeah. She was. I guess she. Yeah, it kept like all I was doing was like I wanted to have a philosophical conversation. I just asked, what is it that makes the state legitimate? What is it that gives it its authority? And she's like, "Oh, did you not pass a high school civics class?" And I'm like really? I even explained. I was like, "No, it's a philosophical question to see where you stand. Like I'm trying to figure out where you're standing on this so I can go forward from here." And then as we, it's like, oh well, I have to follow the laws of my country, whether I like it or not, and I can move to. And I'm like, okay, that's great. You can do that. You can like campaign to change the laws, fine. But what actually gives the state its authority, right? You're saying that the state has its authority. Okay, great. Where did it get that from? And like it was like, oh well, it has to come from the consent of the governed, through a democratic process. I'm like, okay, great. So now we've established that. So what happens to the people who lose in that election, right? The ones that don't consent. Like they consented to be ruled by one person, another person got chosen. If they no longer consent, then do they still have to obey? Like, of course, like, if I don't, if I don't win, like, and of course, trying to make me into like a big Trump supporter, like, oh, just because one election didn't go your way. I'm like, all right, calm down.
Well,
Like,
well,
it's just this whole ridiculous thing of just like
well, hold on.
attacking me constantly for like
Right.
thinking I'm stupid. I'm just trying to walk
Well,
you through this line of logic. Is
right.
all I was trying to do. That's it.
Well,
But
now, see, I would have to argue there that I going into if, as a voter in an election,
mhm.
I go into it consenting to
That's fine for you. Yeah,
to the winner of the election. That's what you
yeah.
should consent to, is to be governed by the winner of the election, not by your candidate. Only if your candidate wins, right?
And that would have been a much better argument.
Right.
I could still, I mean, I would still argue with it, but that is a much better argument because at least
Right.
you can say I went into the voting. I personally went to the voting booth with the intention to consent to the winner, but hoping it was going to be this person. Great,
Right.
fine,
It's just
right?
like
But I'm talking
engagement,
about
right? Right.
right. But I'm talking about like what about the people who don't consent though? Right? Do they still have to? Okay, so they still have to obey. Then obviously we don't care about the consent of the governed.
Well,
That's not what the point is. Right?
and see,
But I couldn't even get that. I couldn't even
right,
get that far. You
right,
see how easy that was? I
right,
couldn't even get that far with this person.
right,
It's
and it's
ridiculous.
sad, right? Um, but they shouldn't. If they don't consent to the rules of the game, they shouldn't be allowed to play the game.
Okay.
If you're right,
Yeah.
that's the people that shouldn't vote, right? If you're
Yeah.
not going to consent to the rules of the game, you shouldn't vote.
Well, yeah. But then the rules of the game shouldn't still be applied to you if you're not going to play the game.
Oh,
Oh,
but
wait.
you're living on the game
No,
board.
no, no.
If you live on the game board, you
If the
become a
floor,
part of the game.
if the floor is lava, but I'm not playing, then
Hold
guess
on.
what? The floor ain't lava anymore,
Not
right?
that, no,
It
the
ain't
floor
lava
was
for me.
the floor was lava before you got here.
But I'm not playing.
You
So
just
it's not lava.
we just give you special shoes.
Okay.
You
I have
just
shields
can't.
on my
You
shoes.
just don't get a voice in whether or not the lava gets turned on or off. I'm just saying, right? You still get special shoes, but if you don't want to play the game, you don't get to say how the game is played.
Well, that's fine as long as the game leaves me alone. That's all I'm asking for.
And there's always that option: get the fuck off the playing board.
Yeah, I would
Get
like
off
to.
the playing board, right? But where else would you go?
But everywhere is a playing board.
Right? Where else would you go?
The whole floor is lava.
Mm-hmm. So, like, if you were going to get the GTFO out of the country, where would you go? If you were like, I'm leaving this country, I'm never coming back.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't do that. I would probably go to like Alaska, somewhere where laws are very difficult to enforce, and so people don't normally bother because there's like 18 people up there. You know, I'd have to
That's
bring.
such a
I'd have to
cop out
bring my own-
answer.
I'd have to bring my own.
You got to leave the country. You got to leave the you got to leave America.
Okay, Saskatchewan,
Okay.
same kind of deal. Same kind of deal, right?
So,
It's
so
cold,
I don't
it's
ever want to
hot,
hear
but-
you knocking Canada anymore because you love it. You love Canada. I think
I
you got a
wouldn't-
crush.
There's
on,
nobody up there.
You got a crush on. That's why you pull their ponytails all the time. You got a crush
Yeah.
on Canada.
It's true.
I think that's what it is.
They're all right.
All right. I think. Yeah, we can. We're almost at that point. But no, I will. Ask you this, John.
Hmm.
Do you so? As far as the EU, they fully expect that this is going to make its way through all of the bureaucratic tiers and go into effect. How quickly do we follow suit in implementing those standards here? Will it happen before 2022, before the midterms, while
No.
the Democrats are in office, while Biden can swing?
No. We're a few years behind. The EU is going to implement it a few years before. Then the UK is going to follow, or maybe they're probably going to do their own twisted dystopian, like even more dystopian version of it. They seem to be doing that lately. It's very strange.
You wouldn't
And
expect
then-
you wouldn't expect us to be premature in enacting it.
No, because that's not because we move much slower when it comes to doing stuff like that.
Uh, I don't
in
know.
order to make it law, at least for now, while we still have Congress, while we don't have a dictator yet, it's gonna work like that. It works. We work very slowly when it comes to doing stuff like that. So
Well,
I think you're gonna find the economic parts going into effect one at a time. But I don't think I think it's gonna be a few years before we fully get there.
I believe I'm willing to say that if you looked at the first 100 days of this administration, what has happened in this first
Yeah.
100 days, you might agree that someone is spraying water on the cold, cold concrete right before a blizzard hits.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but I don't think not
Because
by
he's moving
2022.
fast. Things are
Not
moving
by,
very
but
quickly
not
compared to what they normally.
yeah,
Nothing's
but
getting
not by
bogged down right now,
not by 2022 though. No way.
dude. Well, remember when we talk about 2022, we're talking the end of the year, right?
Yeah,
So you've
for
got
the
a whole
elections.
year there. So we've got a year and a half, roughly, between now and those next elections. And
Yeah,
shit is moving fast right now. Things are moving in Washington through
yeah.
the House, through the Senate, hitting his desk. Some things aren't even having to pass through things and coming off his desk.
Oh my god, I know. Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
So
I don't know.
I think you might need to check yourself on whether or not
Let's see.
things can be 2024 at the latest. I'm going to say it. 2024 at the
I can see
latest.
2024. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
He's got to get it enacted while he's still in office. If he's on top of this, if he's still that tight with John Kerry, and this is happening in the EU, man,
Hmm.
nothing puts a check in place with places like China and North Korea, et cetera, when you start talking
Hmm.
about this, especially when it's like, okay, well, the American empire and the European empire now stand here poised and ready to start, you know, eking out justice throughout the world. You know,
Yeah,
that's kind of a scary thought because, there's an expectation that China get on board with this. What? How do you
got it.
corral that? How does that happen? And what does that look like if they are?
Yeah,
there's, I don't know, John. There's a lot of fast stuff happening. Seawall says shit isn't going through the Senate. Biden needs 60 votes to get shit passed. Yeah, but the things that he may not be able to get through the Senate, what is he doing? He'll pin it. He's got executive orders that he can sling out. I mean, those have become the hip shooters. Now, granted, those can be shut down, but I mean, I don't know. When you're talking about corporatism, how hard is it to pick up 10 Republican votes? Ask yourself that. I mean, who are they playing ball for? There's not 10 Republican votes out there that might be playing ball with the corporations, with the big banks, with the money.
yeah. No, I mean he hasn't had a problem getting things through yet. I mean, there's always Republicans who will vote the other way. You know, I
Um,
don't know.
but if I'll look into it. I'll start looking into what resolutions have been going through, and kind of
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not, but it sure seems like a lot's happening.
Well, he's certainly trying. Yeah, they're talking about a lot of things. Like articles are
Right,
coming out. Like, oh, here's what's going. This just passed the House usually.
right,
Or yeah, yeah.
right,
So,
and
I don't know.
this is the talk in Washington. This is the talk. There's so many conversations about so many different angles, all geared in this direction. Like these things that the Great Reset wants to do. These are conversations that are going on in Washington right now about how to streamline and get these things walking these paths.
Holy
Um,
fuck, dude, that's awesome. There's the British Royal Navy and Royal Marines have tested out a jet suit developed by the company Gravity Industries. Gravity says its suit can fly up to 80 miles per hour and climb to 12,000 feet in the air. Holy shit.
so,
Dude, that's incredible.
wow.
Yeah.
Now, if they just
But,
make it cheaper than a car.
well, I mean, it's going to be military first, right? And then it's going to, trickle
Right,
down to the plebs.
right. First
That's fucking
control,
insane.
and then, right. But yeah, so I don't know. If people aren't starting to watch this, aren't really looking at this, this especially people like you, John, of course, that say the EU is just just a few steps ahead of us, you
Yeah.
know, in almost everything. We just kind of follow that path. Well, well, typically you would say that about the UK, but now the EU is more the appropriate. Of course, the UK is very much on that social justice trip right now too. Um, or are they starting to relax that more?
Who?
The UK.
Oh no! It's full steam ahead.
Right,
No.
right.
They're fully on. Yeah, full on board. Oh my god.
One
Yeah,
would have
it's
thought
ridiculous.
Boris Johnson might have had some impact.
Might be a cuck. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah.
he is British.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody out there that can save us. I mean, maybe
Aliens.
maybe this will
Aliens.
be the time that Dwayne Johnson needs to stand up and run for president.
That's right. We need the
Hey,
Tooth Fairy to come in and help us out.
hey, I'm just gonna play it. If you watch Young Rock, it's kind of fun to watch. It's heartwarming. It's him talking about his life growing up. It's really what it's about.
Sure.
But it is kind of funny seeing him doing like presidential candidate stuff in the year 2034 is actually when it's set in. But yeah, him
Yeah.
running for president and talking like he's a candidate. It's kind of fun to watch. And it's like, wow, if this was the guy that was running for president, it might be. I could listen to him talk for a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go Dwayne Johnson. But I don't know, man. Andrew Yang's time is coming, man. If you're not feeling that, I think that he would not want the corporatocracy. I think he might try and keep government from making that happen.
I think it makes it inevitable what he wants, what he's doing with the UBI and all the other things he talks about. It's pretty much going to be inevitable.
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes it easier.
It's hard. I don't know. It's hard to figure whether or not he would walk lockstep in with it, or run counter to it, or parallel, as it were. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't like thinking about anything lockstep when all of this is involved because, lockstep's just a couple of steps away from the old goose and
The old
gander
goose.
propaganda.
Yeah. The old goosey goose.
Goosey loosey goosey. Iron Man win. What? Yeah, I want to see that suit. I want one.
Yeah. Check it out. It looks cool as fuck. It looks good too. Like it's cool.
All right, John. I guess I guess we should wrap this up. Before
Probs.
we're reset. I don't know. I don't know if with shit like us, even at large scale, small scale, would that be the end of new media? Will they kill it? They won't want any rebellious voices, will they?
That's true. Yeah, you can't have that.
Seawall says Andrew Yang is a technocrat. But who isn't? Right? Isn't that really what we've got to become, though? Isn't that where it's headed? Technocrats?
Well, that's what he's saying. Yeah.
It's where it's headed.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want?
All right, let's get out of here.
All right. John, can you tell these lovely, lovely people where they can find us if they're looking?
Yes. Right after you hit that like button and subscribe button, if you haven't already, down in the description we have all of our links to all of our stuff, including our brand new Buy Me a Coffee, which has already worked out fantastically. Thank you to our first donator, Quest Fanning, over there. That was pretty awesome of you, sir. And yeah, so make sure you check that out because you can do a one-time donation or you can do a monthly and get perks in exchange for that. So check that out. See if you want to, and that would be really cool for us if you did. Then we have our Discord server. So if you like us and you want to talk to us some more, that's a good place to do it. There's also some pretty decent people over there. They know who they are. They also know who they're not. So yeah, go check that out. Also, you'll most likely get notifications for when we go live. So like if YouTube decides not to tell you, well, we'll tell you over there. Then we got our Twitter, right, at the Gen Gap P. And we have a subscribe star as well with the same perks as the go buy me a coffee. That's like demanding, isn't it? It's just buy me a coffee, which I think is still pretty demanding. But
Get your ass over there and buy me a coffee.
get yours, boy. I tell you what.
Wow.
Yeah.
That got me a little wet.
I
All right. All right. So we're going to wrap this thing up. As we said, just, hope you guys get yourselves nice and prepared for all that fancy resetting that's going to be going on in other places around the world. Certainly not here because, freedom, America.
Yeah.
Those still ring true somewhere. We're going to be back again. What's today? Wednesday. So we'll be back on Friday for a couple hours. I think Friday. Yeah, I think I'll be here Friday. Should be no problem.
Well, you better let me know early.
Yeah, we're starting. We're starting to show the house. I just had to make sure that doesn't impede anything, but I don't think it will. Yeah, we'll be back on Friday night at 8:30 for our regular episode. That's 8:30 p.m. Then we are back again on Monday for another episode of Fill in the Gap. A little humor to start your week off right if we can, if we're funny at all. Sometimes we aren't. But that's at 9:30 p.m. And we'll also be back a week from now for another episode, another rousing episode. Of course, it's rousing. It's important that it be rousing episode of Shooting the Shit. That, of course, is at 9:30 p.m. as well. All those times are the Eastern time zone, the one and only true time zone, not to be confused with all the posers out there. You know who you are. I see you out there. We'll be wrapping it up tonight. Thanks a lot, folks, for all your stopping by and all your chit chat and your wonderful opinions and outlooks and takes on things. Ed, thanks. But you guys have yourselves a great night. John, thanks for stopping by. We're going to get the hell out of here. Peace.
Yep, see you guys.
The war will begin.